Good evening, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. Because if you're having an amazing day, why, I'm having an amazing day. And if I'm having an amazing day, you should also be having an amazing day. Today, I'm going to show you a very special thing that's been passed down in my family for generations, known as the Bakul Siah. Now, this Bakul Siah has been with us ever since the early 20th century. And it was basically part of the dowry that was handed down by my great-great-grandmother's side of the family. Yes. And later on, I will explain what a Bakul Siah is, how it is used, and what its significance is in the Baba and Nyonya community. And this beautiful Bakul Siah here is not my family's Bakul Siah, but it is a Bakul Siah which I salvaged at an antique shop. This one is a 1930s piece. This particular one is an early 1900s piece, just in the first few years of the 1900s. So this one is its little brother, and this one is its big brother. So first, let's talk about the different types of Bakul Siah. So I think we're going to have an idiot of the day moment in every new video. That means in every new video, at the beginning of the video, we're going to showcase the idiot of the day, basically. The hater whose comments have sparked the most interest out of me. So today's idiot is a fellow who said that the Malay language was simply not universal, while the Chinese language was far more worth learning. Yes, he came and taunted me by saying I didn't make an effort to learn Chinese. And when I attacked him back, well, he took the bitch response of framing me, the gentle Baba boy, as the aggressor. So let's take a look and see what he says.
Okay, let's see what this jackass said. Being a Peranakan with Chinese roots and don't speak Chinese or a Malay that doesn't speak Malay doesn't change a person. It is your prerogative, but don't argue over it. Just admit that you didn't make any effort to learn. That's it. Oh, so you come to my channel, you provoke me, yeah? And then you get a response. As a Nyonya school teacher, my late grandmother was a respected member of the community. And yet she didn't speak or read Chinese and never felt the need to learn it, unlike you diasporites who are still trying to prove yourself to China. She taught generations of Malaysians their ABCs. She wore a kebaya and called me sayang, not bao bei, with affection. Do you know why she used sayang instead of bao bei? Understand this, and perhaps you'll get closer to understanding the Peranakan condition. She loved me a lot more than China loves you. My family's roots are here, not in Tanah Besar China, which has forgotten about you. I mean, you know, if you come to someone's channel and you provoke them, then don't expect not to be scolded. If you poke a lion with a stick, you can't blame the lion for biting you back. Learning Chinese or not is my choice, not proving anything to anyone. Neither is it because I love China or China loves me. Your late grandmother was respected probably because she knows how to respect others, whereas you don't. Hey, hello, Bobby. You come to my page and you say I didn't make an effort to learn Chinese. Admit that. You call this respect? You were taunting me first. You started it, okay? What your grandmother called you had nothing to do with me. And what I called my children does not matter, be it sayang or babe or darling. I don't have need to learn Peranakan culture to respect Peranakan. You don't. You just insulted me. You taunted me. I did not condemn you for not knowing Chinese. You act innocent now, don't you? Well, let's rewind the clock a bit and go back to what you said. Just admit you didn't make an effort to learn. Now, those words are not neutral. You could have just said, okay, you don't speak Chinese, fine. Didn't make an effort carries a connotation of judgment. If you read between the lines, I'm an English teacher, so I read between the lines. You know exactly what this guy is trying to say. Now he's trying to backtrack because he realizes that he's poked the bear. Why then are you calling me names and question my motive of knowing Chinese? Oh, don't try to back out now. Don't try to back out now. Please grow up and stop being so immature. I think the other fellow is right. You are weird. So I was quite firm with him. I certainly don't tolerate the crossing of social boundaries when someone feels they can openly disrespect you, because obviously this guy has muscle memory. He's obviously taunted people before. He's obviously bullied Peranakans before in this way, right? Because he thought he could get away with it, right? So here's the thing, China Gurk. China Gurk means low-class Chinaman. It's the old word for low-class Chinaman that Peranakans used to refer to the Sinkays. It's not a nice word, definitely, but when you are under siege, you don't have the luxury of being polite. You threw the first punch at me with your provocative language. Just admit you didn't make an effort to learn. The phrase make an effort is patronizing. It insinuates that learning Chinese was a moral duty and I had somehow failed in my obligation because I never picked up a Chinese language book. Don't cry like a little bitch when people fight back and when you started it in the first place. If you can't take it, don't dish it. Now, you might have gotten away with bullying others in the past, but today you learn that actions have consequences. It's time you learn that. Get lost. But he didn't get lost. He went on to double down on his innocence. What provocative language! Stop being hypersensitive and twist every word and imagining that people are attacking you. Hey. You have been caught red-handed. The evidence is right in front of your face. You literally said, just admit that you didn't make an effort to learn. You literally came and taunted me. You need help with your insecurities. No, I think you need to learn social boundaries. When people have a backbone, you realize that you can't just push them around when you find that people are not just doormats and people will actually scold you back. What's your language, young boy? Don't think it is social media you can start calling people degrading names without any responsibilities. Yeah, well, if you're going to talk about personal responsibility, maybe don't come and taunt people first. Know that when you die, you will be judged for every idle word you speak. No, I think when I die, I'm going straight into the loving embrace of my Amma.
If you poke a tiger with a stick, what do you expect? You expect your fingers not to get bitten off? So his wounds are really self-inflicted because he came and taunted me first. Lu ingat gua siapa? Ha? Lu ingat lu boleh carek pasal dengan gua dan tak ada consequences langsung, ya? Ingat ini. Lu ingat gua seorang baba lembek, kan? Sebenarnya lu mesti tahu, gua adalah neraka punya baba. Jika lu carek pasal dengan gua, lu akan makan pedas-pedas sungguh. Lu tak mau rasa pedas, lu jangan makan cili. Lu tak mau rasa panas, lu jangan main api. Otak pangsai lu. Tak guna otak ah? Ha? Lu ni suka bully-bully orang kan? Ha? Suka makan cili, akan rasa pedas. Suka main api, akan rasa panas. Lu jangan carek pasal dengan baba sekali lagi. Gua tak peduli jikalau lu suka gua. Lu boleh benci gua. Ramai orang benci gua. Tapi lu jangan tunjuk perangai yang tak hormat lagi kepada orang baba nyonya. Kerana kami sudah di sini beratus-ratusan tahun. Bila lu punya kongkong baru masuk tanah Melaya, kami sudah di sini. Dah berpantun dah. Kami adalah orang yang baik,
orang yang bertolak ansur, tapi ini bukan kelemahan. Ini adalah kekuatan. Jikalau lu carek pasal dengan orang baba sekali lagi, lu akan dengar daripada gua.
Now the word bakul means basket in Malay, as in basket. You see this basket over here? Siah is a Hokkien word which means auspicious. So when you combine them, it means auspicious basket. Now the Malay language involves putting the adjective behind the noun. So bakul being the noun, siah meaning auspicious. And in the Peranakan language, we often combine Malay and Hokkien words. So bakul first and then siah. In the same way you say kucing comel, cute cat, or anak nakal, which means naughty child. So you see how we flip the arrangement of noun and adjective in the Malay language. So first I will talk about the less formal form of the Bakul Siah. Then I will move on to the serious and formal form of the Bakul Siah. My family's Bakul Siah. So let's begin first with the less formal form of the Bakul Siah. Now, one way you can tell that this Bakul Siah has been handmade is by looking very closely at the handles. You see, the Bakul Siah has an uneven handle. Now, in the modern reproductions, they usually have a very streamlined and a very perfectly formed handle. But for a hand-carved Bakul Siah, what you want to look for is an uneven handle, because that tells you that it's the real thing. Now, the Bakul Siah, the Bakul Siah basically is made out of rattan, very hard rattan. And it may not look like a rattan basket because it is painted with a very thick coat of lacquer. So another thing that you have to look out for is a lacquer covering. The modern reproductions are sometimes painted with common paint, but you can usually tell lacquer from paint by the shininess of the surface, you see. And also another thing that you want to look out for when you buy an antique Bakul Siah is age marks. So it should not look like it was just manufactured yesterday. Now, a Bakul Siah, in simple terms, is basically a gift box. Now, literally, it doesn't translate to gift box. It translates to auspicious basket. But the purpose of the Bakul Siah that I'm holding, the single story Bakul Siah, is basically to bring gifts, food, and all sorts of treats such as kueh, which means nyonya cakes and Malay cakes, to people's houses. So if people were having a potluck in the past, or people were having an event or a gathering, you would use this basket in order to bring presents for the host. You put the food inside, or the gifts like the mandarin oranges, and you pop them in here, and you can just bring them over to your friend's house. But I wouldn't recommend using any antique Bakul Siahs for that purpose, because you see that would be like test driving your grandmother's antique Lamborghini just for fun. No, you don't want the food stains to be damaging or basically corroding your antique Bakul Siah. Okay, so the first type of Bakul Siah is the less formal type. Now, in those days, people didn't have Tupperware boxes, so they plastic only started being used in the 20th century. So in the days before plastic, you needed ways by which you could bring food to people's houses without getting anything dirty. So what you would do is, and if you'll excuse me for a moment, I'll get a couple of bowls to show you. I will not put curry in it, but I will show you how you may use the Bakul Siah. And you can do this with any modern reproduction. I don't advise doing it with an antique one. You pop the various plates like this, and as you can see, it fits in beautifully, right? Maybe you can put jihucha, which is a vegetable dish. You could put sambal in one of them, but usually, you know, families might have more than one of these Bakul Siah. So this is basically like a tapao box. And the same applies for gifts as well. You can pop in mandarin oranges, hong baos, ang baos, what have you. And, you know, usually the basket was not given alongside the gifts. It was brought back home after the gifts had been presented. So just remember, this was like basically a multi-purpose box before the invention of multi-purpose boxes. Now, I have to get something very clear, that a Bakul Siah is not a Hokkien basket. I know there are some people who incorrectly label it a Hokkien basket, but the Bakul Siah did not originate in China. No such thing exists in China. The Bakul Siah is in fact a Malaysian creation. Well, there was no Malaysia back then. I'm just being facetious. Just like that Yisang or tacky Chinese New Year pop music, it is a proudly Malaysian creation. To call it a Hokkien basket just because Peranakans have Hokkien ancestors would be like calling chicken chop a British heritage dish. It would be like calling chicken chop British chicken cutlet. No, the Bakul Siah's existence began in Nusantara. And so, just to be clear, this one-tiered beauty is used for informal occasions like potlucks or friends gatherings, while this one, on the other hand, is used for very formal occasions, and I will get into that in a minute. Now, like I said, the Bakul Siah does not exist in China, so I would rather it not be called a Hokkien basket. The ancestor of the Bakul Siah is called a tihe, which is basically a Chinese wedding gift box from which the Bakul Siah descends. Now, the tihe basically serves the same function as the Bakul Siah in order to transport gifts from one place to the next. Now, we get to the most exciting part. Now, this is my personal family Bakul Siah, and it was part of the wedding dowry of my great-great-grandmother. This is my great-great-grandmother. Do you see? Yes. I'll show you a picture of her. I posted a picture of her on Twitter, and I was fighting with some Chinese ultra, and he so very charmingly called her a child bride. Yes, I suppose he doesn't realize that Asians don't raisins. So I'll let you take a closer look at her face. She wasn't exactly a child when this picture was taken. She was in her early 20s. But, you know, considering this guy's a vile pervert, I guess it was basically a confession on his own part. Anyway, Mr. Chan Heng Jun called my great-great-grandmother, who owned this Bakul Siah, which was part of her dowry, he called her a child bride. So if anybody knows Mr. Chan Heng Jun, I would like to clarify what he meant by that statement. Yes. Anyway, this picture was taken in the early 20th century as well. So she's my great-great-grandmother, and this Bakul Siah was part of her dowry. The three-story Bakul Siah, I don't feel like disassembling it because it's actually a family heirloom, and I feel a bit uncomfortable disassembling it. But the three-story Bakul Siah is a much more formal and somber version than the one-story Bakul Siah. Now, the Bakul Siah, in any case, is a beautiful piece of work. Whether it's one-story or three-story, it doesn't really matter. But the three-story ones tend to be a lot more expensive than the one-story ones. In the same way, a designer box tends to be a lot more expensive than a simple tapao box. And the purpose of the three-story Bakul Siah was meant to showcase the bride's family's status and basically serve as part of the dowry. As you can see, there is gold. There is gold on it, and there's even, if you look at it, I'm not gonna tilt it. I'm very scared of damaging this. But if you see, there's very intricate patterns that have been carved on it. So the design of the three-tier Bakul Siah is actually far more complex than the one-tier one, because it serves a very much more serious purpose. That is to deliver the bride's dowry inside. Now, inside this Bakul Siah would have been things like jewelry, gold, diamonds, what have you. But the important thing is that this is the formal version of the Bakul Siah, and it has much more intricate design. There's a much more intricate design than the more simple yet functional single-story Bakul Siah, because this one is basically the big gun of the Bakul Siah. The bigger the better. Some of them can be huge, almost the size of a man as well. Those are exorbitantly expensive. But yeah, they basically have very intricate designs, the Bakul Siah, and it's really one of the parts of Nyonya culture that we so often see, but we never quite think about, basically. So, why is it that we have stopped using Bakul Siahs? Why is it now when we carry food, we tend to just use Tupperwares? That's due to the fact that Tupperwares are a lot more practical, admittedly, than rattan baskets, aren't they? However, I think if you're hosting a Nyonya-themed party, I think a Bakul Siah would make a very aesthetically attractive addition to the party. There's something so much more romantic about actually using a Bakul Siah to bring food to a potluck, rather than simply using a plastic Tupperware box. Just don't use any of your antique Bakul Siahs. It would be very sakit hati if any of them were to break or get stained by curry. Well, I hope that this video has been informative. This is just an introduction video to the Bakul Siah, which is one of the most iconic parts of Peranakan Baba Nyonya culture. And I will delve into these in a lot more detail in a future video, because I don't have much time today. So basically, the Bakul Siah developed organically, just like Baba Malay, as a love story between China and the Malay world. Believe it or not, I am not against China. I never have been against China. Some of my best friends are from mainland China. However, I don't like the highly reactionary and dogmatic form of Chinese Malaysian identity. That's why I do not like calling myself Chinese Malaysian today, because Chinese Malaysian, the term Chinese Malaysian has political connotations that I, as a hybrid Creole Baba who has a much more relaxed Nusantaran view in life, cannot support in good faith. The Bakul Siah shows you that despite the fact that our ancestors did retain some elements of their culture, they did not cling on to China like a life raft. They did not import their tihas over and continue to use them. Rather, they created something that combined the best of both worlds, in the same way Baba Malay combined the best of both worlds. So if you talk about Mandarinizing the Babas, now I'm not against people learning Mandarin on their own free will, okay? If you talk about forcefully Mandarinizing the Babas and basically forcing them into the Chinese diaspora mold, that's basically like chucking out your Bakul Siahs and going back to the old mode of production. Sorry, I often mix in Marxist terminology. It's like going back to the old base, the old Chinese mold that we already grew out of, you see. So some Peranakans might use tihas, they might like the tiha out of interest, they might use it, but to force Mandarin as a second language on the Baba Nyonya instead of Malay, well, that's like forcing the Bakul Siah out of the house and putting a tiha in its place. There's nothing wrong with the tiha, but the Bakul Siah is our identity, not Mandarin. But the Bakul Siah is our identity. In the same way, there's nothing objectively wrong with Mandarin, but Mandarin belongs in China. Mandarin is not part of our organic Nusantaran identity if it is bureaucratized and forced on anyone. So I'm not against people learning Mandarin, but Peranakan culture must evolve organically and not be forced into a mold that the Peranakans themselves did not consent to, you see. So that is all I'm saying. While we did retain elements from China and we didn't give up elements, sentimental elements from the old country, we at the same time did not import the same exact culture from China. And one thing that I have to make clear is that people talk about how Peranakans should be grateful that the mainland Chinese market is taking an interest in us, and how the Singaporean Chinese are also taking an interest in us to the extent that they now film films about Peranakans using Xiaohongshu-looking actors speaking Mandarin. And we should be grateful for that, apparently, according to some people who have come to attack me, saying that I'm ungrateful and I'm keeping the Peranakans in a straitjacket. Well, I think that no representation is better than bad representation, because when you represent the Peranakans as just another subgroup of the Chinese, you erase the distinctiveness and the uniqueness of the Baba Nyonya identity, and you basically shove it back into the generic Chinese box. It's like labeling a Bakul Siah a lunch box. No. If you're going to represent us, do it accurately in our tongue. But more importantly, if you only appreciate the Chinese aspects of our culture, with the exception of the kabaya, but you deny or you ignore or you downplay the Malay base, that is not real respect for our culture, because the Bakul Siah, the word Bakul is itself a Malay word. If you cannot respect our culture without our culture contorting itself to suit your taste, your Han Chinese taste, then you don't really respect our culture. You respect a version of our culture that has been filtered through Han Chinese sensibilities. But I think that if you really want to enjoy Baba Nyonya culture, you need to also be able to appreciate and respect things like pantuns, syair, dondang sayang, and if you cannot respect these, then you don't really respect Baba Nyonya culture. If you cannot respect a messy Creole culture that does not conform to the strict Chinese mold, then you really cannot respect Baba Nyonya culture. And if you don't respect it, don't consume it. Well, our Baba Nyonya identity has existed for far longer than the Chinese language has existed in Nusantara. It has existed for far longer than since the inception of the Republic of China. And we certainly do not need, should not feel obliged to sinicize ourselves or put Mandarin on our tongue in order to make ourselves palatable to you. And we certainly should not have to downplay the Malay aspects of our culture because you feel uncomfortable with Southeast Asian culture. Because if you truly accept the Baba Nyonya culture, you will accept it in its original unfiltered form that has all the works and no Mandarin. Now, will Mandarin be part of the Baba Malay lexicon? Perhaps, if more Chinese speakers marry into Peranakan families, perhaps Mandarin words or Cantonese words may be added to the Baba Malay lexicon. But as of now, Mandarin is not an organic part of the Baba Nyonya culture because it was forced. Hokkien is organic, Mandarin is not, because Hokkien came through osmosis, through trade, through marriage with Hokkien people in Penang. So yeah, Hokkien can be counted as an organic evolution in the Baba Nyonya culture, but Mandarin was enforced from the top down in Singapore. So it cannot be part of the Baba Nyonya organic evolution because this was done without the consent of the Baba Nyonya people who were shoved into the Chinese box, whether they liked it or not. And this is not me making things up. There are dozens of Peranakans in Singapore who are now messaging me and telling me I don't have the freedom to be myself in Singapore because I'm always pressured to act more Chinese. Yeah, so it's not just a madman rambling. It's actually a Baba who's concerned about his cousins down south, who've been pressured to act more Chinese and erase the Creole Nusantaran part of themselves. Well, I hope that this video has been informative. This is just an introduction video to the Bakul Siah, which is one of the most iconic parts of Peranakan Baba Nyonya culture. And I will delve into these in a lot more detail in a future video because I don't have much time today. Well, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.